All right, y'all, what's going on? It's Combo Breaker 99 back with another video. All right, y'all, let's talk about this fight from Saturday night. Eduarda Moura taking on Lauren Murphy in Lauren Murphy's final MMA performance. Before we talk about Eduarda Moura's performance, overall, the fight was all right. As far as a standout performance for Eduarda Moura, not really, which I'll get into here in a minute. But just wanted to say, shout out to Lauren Murphy. It's been a long career for her. I've been watching Lauren Murphy for a minute. She's been one of those veterans in the game. The early Invicta FC days, from the Tough House days, fighting at 135, then moving down to 125 and fighting Valentina Shevchenko for the belt. She's been working. She's been working. Lauren Murphy, she's a worker and a grinder. That's something I always said about her. She has that high work ethic. Never really had like a standout skill set, but overall her work ethic is what won her a lot of fights. So, I always got to give her credit on that because Lauren Murphy, she kind of reminds me of like in boxing, Arturo Gatti or Mickey Ward. She likes to go in there and just put it all on the line. Nothing really stands out, but what she's learned, she's going to try to execute. And that won her a lot of fights. They put her on a 5-fight win streak before fighting Valentina Shevchenko, right? So I always got to give her respect on that. I know a lot of people hate on Lauren Murphy. I don't know why. A lot of people hate on her for any reason, but I respect her because she came from a hard life, was able to bounce back, turn away from the negatives and make good. She came from a life of drugs, and then fighting the fighter lifestyle kind of changed her around. So to me that was always a good thing. So that's something that Lauren Murphy always say was a win for her. Didn't get the belt, but hey, that was a win. Changing her life around through the fight game, always a win. Always a win. But it was definitely time for her to go. Cage rust, being inactive for over a year, and hitting her 40s now, hitting her 40s in the fight game. It's a different world now. Sometimes your 40s just don't agree with you. It differs for some fighters. Look at Liz Carmouche. She's 42, but Liz Carmouche is still strong, still hungry. Almost hit another prime. But for Lauren Murphy, sometimes as you get older, your 40s, it just takes a toll on you. Fight years just, the fight years, the punishment, the training, it all takes toll on you. So definitely time for Lauren Murphy to, go ahead and bounce out of the game. But sucks she couldn't get a victory. Sucks she couldn't get a victory here over a young, hungry prospect in Eduarda Moura. I will say this though, I really wasn't like impressed with Eduardo's performance. I was thinking that Eduarda Moura, being the younger, big fighter here, big, stronger fighter, I thought she was going to go in there and make a statement. But this just goes to show you that Lauren Murphy still has that heart. She's still gritty. The only thing that was really kind of stumping her performance here was the cage rush, you could say, right? Because she was still game, she was still tough in there, and still had her moments with her veteran skills, right? It was Eduarda Moura who was kind of coming up short to me, and a couple of questionable things in there, with Eduarda Moura, like not just her striking, because I will say her striking improved from her last performance with like Denise Gomes, but this time around, gotta admit, she's got some cardio issues. She's got some cardio issues in there because, last time around, her fighting at 125, we thought that maybe she needed to move up because she was a big straw weight. So she moves up to flyweight, and she still seems to gas out a little bit. But she looks like a big flyweight. Maybe she needs to be a bantamweight. And I'm just saying because she's a big flyweight. She is a big fighter. She's a big girl, so I know she has to be cutting a lot of weight. So maybe she needs to be a bantamweight. Everybody talks about fighters like Manon needs to move up, but she looks like a 135-pounder. And the way she was gassing out here just kind of shows you that maybe the weight cuts are rough, or maybe she just needs to work on her cardio, period. If she's going to be a flyweight, maybe she just needs to work on her cardio, period, because after that rough first round, or, high-paced first round, and even some of the striking exchanges in the second, you could see Eduarda Moura already kind of huffing and puffing. She actually kind of blew out the air in her, where Lauren Murphy saw those moments and tried to jump on him. I mean, right from the jump in the first round, Eduarda Moura was doing what she had to do. She was crisper with her striking, snapping the shots out, and, letting her shots go and being faster than the older fighter here. It just looked like a older fighter who was showing some signs of rust, So Eduarda Moura just popping off shots. It was actually Lauren Murphy that initiated the first takedown, which led to Eduarda Moura reversing and taking her down. And from there, you can see, okay, Eduarda Moura is the stronger fighter at this point, where she looked to be the stronger fighter, getting that side control and top control in to win the round. So she clearly won the first round with her striking and her top control. But the second round, it seemed like she was really starting to kind of fight a little bit harder than she needed to. Lauren Murphy was landing a few more shots. She started to pick up the pace, and Eduarda Moura, was having to really fight to keep Lauren Murphy off her. She was landing more shots, of course, but Eduarda Moura really started to look like she was gassing out from throwing these combinations. She was huffing and puffing towards the end of the round. Lauren Murphy was able to, kind of back her up towards the end of the round, and Moura survived the round, but you could see her starting to huff, and her corner was kind of calling that. They was like, oh, she's looking like she's tiring, so jump on her. So in the third round, Lauren Murphy just kind of lets it all go and goes in for that takedown and almost locks in the guillotine. She almost locks in that guillotine and almost goes to a ninja choke. But you could see there that Eduarda Moura was starting to kind of fall apart just a little bit. She was kind of gassing out a little bit because she left her neck wide open for it. Had that been like a fresher grappler, a younger grappler, they probably would have locked it in, and she probably would have been tapping. But Lauren Murphy, I think she was just a little bit tired and a little bit exhausted there from the strikes and the rough clinches, so she just couldn't hang on to it. So just those little things like that. You saw some little veteran tricks Lauren Murphy was doing that was just showing some holes in Eduarda Moura's game. I mean, Moura, she did finish strong. She did land some big right hands, but Lauren was still connecting as well. I think her strike numbers were higher in the third round. But overall, I just thought that Lauren pushed her and she gave her a tough fight, even for somebody, coming off of over a year out. Eduarda Moura, she was able to make it through the fight, but she survived the scary submission attempt there. So I'm just saying that was kind of showing some holes in the game, and, just the signs of fatigue were there. Her huffing and puffing in the second and third round and just looking like she was gassing was kind of showing you that, okay, she's got something to work on. And then she was dropping her hands as well. I mean, had that been somebody like a Wang Kong or somebody, she probably would have got dropped. So yeah, I had it 2-1 for Eduarda Moura, but yeah, not really anything stand out about her in my opinion. No standout performance. I mean, if she kind of struggled with an inactive veteran like Lauren Murphy, I see her having some trouble with these other bigger, stronger, young flyweights for real. Even some of the ones that are a little bit smaller might give her some work. But yeah, even like a fighter like Wang Kong might really hurt her, So I think she needs to tighten up on her cardio, and she's got to tighten up on her defense, because after she throws those combinations, she be dropping them hands. It's like she be getting tired from doing them things. So maybe she needs to hit the treadmill, do some road work, and, work on that cardio for real, because, yeah, those are the holes that I saw in Eduarda Moura's game. But, yeah, shout out to Lauren Murphy, though. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, she couldn't get the victory. But like I said, long time, in the game now. And, as these girls start to evolve, you just got to know when to tap out or bow out, right? But for Eduarda Moura, yeah, she's going to need some work. And I think she acknowledged that as well. As far as the post-fight, she did say she needs to work on some things. So, yeah, maybe going in there with like a striker like Luana Carolina, that would be a good fight. And another fight I like to see her in there with is Ernesta Karaskatai. That would be a good fight. That big, tall Lithuanian flyweight, that would be a good fight because she's big and strong. I know Carly Giudice is fighting Nicole Cagliari next. Maybe she could fight the winner of that fight. Who's another fight I like to see Eduarda Moura take on? Dang, there's another girl that I want to see her fight. It's starting to blank in my mind right now. Oh, not Gabriela Fernandez, but Diane Barbosa. Diane Barbosa, that would be a tough fight for Eduarda Moura. So any of those girls are some good tests, for Eduarda Moura as she's trying to make her way up this 125-pound ladder, So, yeah, we'll see, man. But maybe I'll talk about it in another video just as far as how she matches up here. But, guys, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Who do y'all think Eduarda Moura fights next that would give her a good test? I think those are some good names for me. Combo Breaker 99, I'm out. Subscribe. Peace.